Hey guys, today I'll show you a science fiction fantasy TV series named Two Hills, aka Dva Kholma, Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama begins in a future when a biological war had led to the demise of the men-dominant world and most of the male population, leaving countless sexy women behind, crying for muscular men desperately and helplessly. Without men's physical and psychological comfort, the women abandoned the chaotic cities, returned to nature, and established new homesteads, an eco-city called Two Hills, where hunger and disease are a thing of the past. Unlike patriarchal societies, these women were not interested in war, dedicating themselves entirely to biotechnology and medicine, extending the average lifespan to 150 years. While women diligently researched asexual reproduction, they also selectively bred and protected men with exceptional genes from the survivors. However, due to virus mutation, it was rare for women to give birth to male infants. The feral men with inferior genetics were perceived solely as primates and cast out from the civilized city, deprived of even the internet, where a swimsuit poster became a treasure of great value. In such a society, there is no doubt that some bizarre and chilling journeys would unfold when a man enters the land of women. The scene shifts to Radha, a female teacher living in the eco-city of Two Hills. After eating the breakfast prepared by her smart home assistant and changing into disinfected clothes, she steps out refreshed. Along the way, she enjoys free coffee provided on the street where everyone looks relaxed. However, Radha still has work to do. In a hurry, she doesn't sort her trash and casually throws the bag into a bin, which leads to the police catching her and deducting 5 credit points. Unconcerned, she hails a rickshaw and arrives at her workplace. She enters a strangely shaped vehicle, her classroom. The van then heads to the city's edge, where the guard opens the protective layer. Today, Radha is taking her students to visit the barbaric world outside the city. The noisy girls, curious, take non-stop photos. To better observe the barbarians, Radha leads her students into a slum. The leading girl is curious about what men look like and wants to delve deeper to check on men's hormones, but this is definitely against the city's constitution. Disappointed, she says this is hardly a field trip. At best, it's a boring tour of a dump. Radha's pride is hurt. Believing herself to be the coolest teacher in the city, she promises to take them further. At that moment, a group of messy bachelors gathers in a restaurant, flexing their muscles. Seeing a group of sexy women approaching, they excitedly shout. The female students, like visiting monkeys in the zoo, reach out for selfies with them. The monkey men feel disrespected, and one with a hat stands out, shamelessly dropping his pants to show off his smelly sausage. However, not feeling humiliated, the female students find his sausage pretty amusing, thinking it's a primate deliberately performing some tricks. Another girl, even bolder, steps forward and lifts her skirt to flex her smelly down. Teacher Radha thinks this behavior is too much and quickly calls for the students to leave. Back in the car during roll call, she discovers a student is missing. Unbeknown to them, the student is attracted by a gray goose and has wandered off from their group. Radha rushes over and her students ask her what it is. Unable to recognize it, she guesses it might be a black-boned chicken. Just then, a man named Hera kills the roaring goose, startling both Radha and the students. Suddenly, they hear a hooligan's voice. Observing no one around, he begins to dump his wastewater. Hera quickly pulls Radha aside to hide, feeling disgusted by the hooligan's stinky water. At that moment, sparks seem to fly as their eyes meet. Taking advantage of Radha's distraction, he sneaks a sniff of her hair. When the hooligan behind the wall leaves, Radha stands up to thank the man for saving her from the stinky water. Hera is visibly smitten and can't help but rush over to kiss Radha. Shocked as an old virgin, she blows her high-tech whistle, which can disrupt men. She then takes the chance to flee with her students back to the Two Hills. However, Radha had just made a run for it when she was caught by a few thugs. They dragged her sexy body in front of their leader, with the men at his side starting to get handsy. Just then, Hera, who had been attracted by Radha, decided to challenge the leader to a duel. The terms were simple. They would slap each other to determine the victor. The winner would get Radha. The thug leader, confident, sent a burly henchman named Beardy Baldy to fight, and even allowed Hera to strike first. Hera's slap with his chicken strength, however, didn't move the man's beard an inch, prompting a raucous response from the onlookers. When it was Beardy Baldy's turn, he wound up for a powerful swing. Hera ducked like a duck, and the bald slap landed squarely on the leader's face instead, knocking him out cold. Seeing that, Hera signaled to Radha to flee for her sexy life and then took off in a different direction himself. Radha made it back to the vicinity of their vehicle, activated the protective shield, and repelled the pursuers. Meanwhile, Hera took refuge in his grandfather's house. The thugs swarmed the place, but the grandfather lied and claimed Hera had jumped out the window. One of the thugs jumped out the window as well and was badly injured. The grandfather's face didn't even turn red as he lied, suggesting that perhaps Hera had run upstairs. He even convinced the thugs to help transport goods, believing they might actually be a few cans short of a six-pack. The thugs ended up delivering goods to the Two Hills, waiting by the roadside for a truck that transported muscular men with high-quality genes, known as the Seed Keepers. When a Seed Keeper opened the door to receive the barrel-shaped batteries, Hera popped out from one of them. The Seed Keeper wanted to throw him out, but since the truck was on autopilot, it wouldn't slow down until it neared the city. Reluctantly, he allowed Hera to stay a bit longer. Hera took off his dirty clothes, took a swig from his flask, and offered some to the Seed Keeper, who had never seen alcohol before. Curious, the Seed Keeper tried it and ended up coughing violently. After a few rounds, the two struck up a friendship. Hera took the opportunity to learn about the Seed Keeper's job. The Seed Keeper got so drunk he passed out, leaned out the door, and was knocked off the truck by a branch. Hera donned his clothes, prepared to blend into the legendary city of Two Hills, and eyed the attractive female driver, feeling as though he had opened the gates of paradise. On the other side, Radha was getting an earful from her mother, who scolded her for taking such risks outside the city. However, her grandmother was quite open-minded and even gossiped, asking if the feral man she encountered was handsome. In fact, the grandmother had always disliked the policies of Two Hills. Radha didn't understand what the difference was between the beauty and ugliness of monkeys. She said goodbye to her grandmother and went to have a heart-to-heart with her best friend. They lay on the lawn relaxing when suddenly the sound of a bicycle bell rang out. It turned out to be Hera passing by in a rickshaw. The girls clapped and welcomed him, but Radha had no interest in the Seed Keepers and didn't notice the man was Hera, who had saved her from the barbaric world. Upon arriving at the base, Hera received a warm welcome. As part of the ceremonial ritual, Radha's mother, who was the Minister of Culture, declared her love while embracing Hera. Hera felt even more that this place was a paradise on Earth and suggested that he could go around giving everyone a hug. Radha's mother smiled contentedly and led Hera into the Seed Keeper's living quarters, where he was treated to luxurious services, including oil massages and bubble baths. Hera, eager to get down to some hormone business, insisted that he could forego rest, but Radha's mother had no choice but to lead him to the doorway of a room. Hera curiously asked why she wasn't entering, and she explained that others were inside. Upon entering, Hera was disheartened to see a hefty old nurse, and his spirits dropped from his head to his butt. The worst was yet to come when the nurse took out a vacuum cleaner-like device and placed it on him, beginning the routine work of a Seed Keeper. All the while, Hera couldn't help but think of Radha. The next day, Hera awoke to the cheerful voices and laughter of women, roused by the smart housekeeper service. As he looked out the window, his mood was lifted. Following the nurse's instructions, he went for a massage, sneaking glances at the masseuse throughout the session. He couldn't help but get turned on. However, in Two Hills, any hormone transgression would trigger an alarm, and even manual self-relief was not permitted. Hera was embarrassingly caught in the act, resulting in a reprimand for all the Seed Keepers. Furthermore, they had to go and apologize. On their way to the statue of Greta, the downsides of being a Seed Keeper became apparent. Hera found that his companions had to report even the act of flatulence and go to a designated space to take care of it. They seemed utterly oblivious to the problem, like domesticated dogs. Eventually, they arrived at the statue, and while the hefty nurse was apologizing, Hera convinced the Seed Keepers to go for a swim in the lake, reasoning that getting caught would only mean having to apologize to the statue. Hera's boldness grew, and he even led them to enjoy roasted fish and mushrooms. Unfortunately, the smoke set off the alarm. A programmed dark cloud came, and rain extinguished the fire. Because of that, several unlucky ones were caught and reprimanded again, with a punishment at the Patriarchy Museum scheduled for the next day. However, the Seed Keepers didn't blame Hera for the incident. They had tasted freedom for the first time and decided to support Hera unconditionally. Hera then shared his flask with everyone. Meanwhile, the seedkeeper named Yuli, who had fallen from the truck, was surprisingly brought back to Hera's living area since they had switched their clothes. The thug leader was interrogating him, but Yuli didn't reveal Hera's whereabouts, which angered the leader and resulted in Yuli's finger being broken. In an act of humiliation, they stripped Yuli of his trousers to check his smelly part, but the next second, everyone was shocked to silence by his huge size. After all, the seed keepers were selected from many for their superior physical attributes. The most amusing part was that in this barbaric land, men openly competed over physical endowments, and Yuli instantly toppled the thug leader's rank, becoming the new #1. Hera's grandfather took in the seed keeper and had someone cut his hair short. They just had to wait a week to send goods to Two Hills, and then they could send Yuli back then. Beardy Baldy's beardless wife, one of the few women in the barbaric land, began to show interest in Yuli and appreciate his large size. Seeing this, the thug leader deliberately provoked Beardy Baldy's anger, prompting him to challenge Yuli to a slapping contest. As it turned out, the seed keepers were indeed formidable. Yuli withstood a slap and could still stand up. He even knocked out Beardy Baldy, but spared his beard. In Two Hills, Rada was deeply worried. She had come into contact with saliva from a primate, and if the student were to report her, the consequences would be unthinkable. The trial concerning the previous day's events began shortly after, with the judge making an appearance dressed in peach-pink attire. According to Two Hills tradition, both the defense and the prosecution were represented by mothers. Orphans without mothers could claim a representative for free from the city. During the trial, a student's parent accused Rada of forcing their child to observe primates up close. However, Rada's mother remained unfazed. There was a catch-all provision in Two Hills law stating that as long as an incident was resolved satisfactorily, the committee would not pursue accountability. It was this provision that maintained a 93% acquittal rate in the city. Victory seemed assured, but in an effort to teach Rada a lesson and keep her daughter away from primates, the mother's defense took an unexpected turn. She confessed in the second half of the trial. Rada, unwilling to accept this passively, stood up to defend herself and even had the day's video played back, proving that it was the student who volunteered for a closer look. Just when Rada was about to win, her supposed friend betrayed her by reporting that Rada had kissed a primate. Hearing this, the judge sentenced her to 80 hours of community service and rewarded the informant with 20 social credits. Rada, looking at her friend, grew even more disgusted with the hypocritical society. The next day, as she went to serve her sentence in the seed keeper's living area, Rada unexpectedly encountered Hera. She recognized him immediately but couldn't fathom why he was in Two Hills. Fearful of exposing his true identity, Hera lied about spraining his ankle to avoid her. However, he couldn't stop stealing glances at Rada. The other seed keepers, lacking any sense of romantic love, found Hera's attraction to women pretty disgusting and revolting. Later, as they visited the Patriarchy Museum as instructed, Rada took the opportunity to interrogate Hera. He denied everything, but in truth, Rada had no intention of reporting Hera. She despised betraying others for social credits. Throughout the visit, not only did the seed keepers fail to reflect on themselves, but they also began to entertain taboo thoughts upon seeing old society's female magazines. Hera accidentally witnessed this scene. When they returned to the living area, Hera tried to explain to his male counterparts that it's normal for men to have feelings for women and that they should have the right to love freely. However, the hard-head seed keeper misunderstood the concept of mutual affection and attempted to force Rada to undress in front of him. Thankfully, Hera intervened, preventing the hard-head seed keeper's actions. This was the second time Hera had saved Rada, and she began to see him in a favorable light. The two exchanged names, but not yet hormones, and Rada kindly warned Hera that he needed to leave Two Hills within half an hour, or she would have to call the authorities. Hera immediately set into action, but escaping the town with its protective barrier was easier said than done. Meanwhile, in the barbaric area, the thug leader, acting out of jealousy, lured Yuli to a remote place to teach him a lesson, hoping he wouldn't return. Against the odds, Yuli risked his safety to bring back a lot of food for everyone. However, the gang members were fiercely loyal to their boss and ambushed Yuli with a shovel. Even when their weapons broke, Yuli remained unharmed. Fortunately, Yuli didn't react with anger. Instead, he gathered everyone together, criticizing the leader's actions and instilling a sense of equality and justice in the gang. Then he went back to focusing on finding food. Unbeknownst to him, the gang outside plotted to poison Yuli with expired canned goods. Their plans were interrupted when a group of bikers arrived, smashing bottles and bullying the locals. Luckily, Yuli returned just in time to drive the bikers away and protect everyone. However, an unexpected event soon occurred. The mayor of Two Hills and the thug leader were in a romantic relationship. Through this connection, she learned about the switch involving Yuli. The mayor quickly identified Hera's identity and ordered her subordinates to enter a state of emergency. Meanwhile, Harold found Rada and explained that he had no chance of escaping. Just then, all the streetlights turned red, and a warning sounded over the loudspeakers, instructing everyone outside to go home immediately and not to wander around aimlessly. Everyone followed the instructions and went back inside, except for Rada and Hera, who hid behind some bushes. An intelligent ring then issued a warrant for Hera's arrest. He simply took off the ring and threw it away. Rada, unable to leave him to his fate, led Hera away to escape. Unfortunately, everything they did was betrayed. Rada's best friend saw her take Hera to her grandmother's house. However, the mayor's secretary was searching everywhere, and they soon arrived at the house. The two had to quickly hide in a wardrobe, into which the grandmother also stuffed her illegally kept pet cat. While the secretary searched outside, Hera, allergic to cat fur, felt a sneeze coming on, but Rada hurriedly pinched his nose to stop it. Just as the secretary was about to leave, the cat sneezed, revealing their hiding place. In a moment of desperation, the grandmother knocked out the secretary and then rolled out a Tesla motorcycle, telling Rada to escape with the primate Hera. As long as the motorcycle was fast enough, they could break through the city's protective layer. Unexpectedly, Rada's mother suddenly appeared, and the grandmother tackled her to the ground. Hera quickly took Rada and they escaped on the motorcycle, successfully bursting through the protective layer. They changed clothes and spent the night by a campfire, with Hera squeezing close to Rada under the pretext of keeping warm. On the other side, the thug leader returned from Two Hills to the barbaric area, only to find that his men had not delivered the supplies. They had distributed the food instead. Furious, he demanded to know whose idea it was. Yuli immediately stepped forward. Seeing that Yuli was still alive, the thug leader realized that his men had turned against him. He casually pulled a meat cleaver from the table, intending to kill Yuli on the spot. A barbarian quickly intervened, explaining that Yuli had just stepped up to protect everyone. With all eyes on him, the thug leader had no choice but to put down the knife and agreed to sit down and talk. Yuli suggested that the barbaric area should promote democracy. However, the thug leader kept urging him to drink tea. Yuli disliked the smell in the cup and did not drink it. Later, Beardy Baldy, who was tempted by his cravings, picked up the cup and drank it, only to suddenly feel unwell and faint. The thug leader indeed still wanted to harm Yuli, but unbeknownst to him, the attitude of the people had changed. They smashed the thug leader's windows under the cover of night. Led by Yuli, they demanded democratic rights and even nominated Yuli to replace him. The thug leader had no choice but to secretly contact the mayor, who suggested he agree to an election first, but to set it up according to his own rules. Hearing this, the thug leader called over his sidekick and had him join the election to act accordingly. Unexpectedly, after the election, the lucky sidekick unexpectedly won by a landslide. It turns out the people disliked the thug leader's tyranny, but also distrusted Yuli from Two Hills. The thug leader wasn't angry, though. He realized he could use his influence to control the newly elected leader. On the other side, Rada was still sound asleep while Hera roasted a squirrel, calling her attentively to wake up and eat. Startled by his voice, Rada screamed in a chicken voice, which immediately drew the attention of two archers. They had to flee quickly. Accustomed to a life of luxury, Rada wasn't far into their escape before she stumbled and twisted her ankle. Hera had no choice but to carry her heavy body as they ran, but in the next moment, he too slipped and fell into a pit, hitting a wooden stake and knocking himself out. As a result, they were captured and taken back to the barbaric land. The leader naturally assumed Rada belonged to her, which caused discontent among the populace. As the newly appointed leader, the lucky sidekick suggested a contest to determine who would have Rada. Everyone headed to the yard to prepare for a slapping contest, just as Yuli, who had just gotten up, casually lifted an enormous bathtub and ran off with it. If the contest were about slapping, Yuli would undoubtedly win. He excitedly greeted Hera and led the two inside for a meal. Everyone knew that if it came down to a contest of strength like slapping, Yuli had the advantage, so they decided to switch the contest to a game of poker. Radha couldn't stand the discussion any longer, slamming the table and standing up to declare that women are not property and no one can decide who she belongs to. The women of the barbaric region found this reasonable as they disliked the male-dominant rules. Yuli spoke up for Radha, suggesting that men and women should have equal status. The thug leader hinted to the lucky sidekick to silence Radha's speech, but then played the mediator, giving a speech in support of Radha to win everyone's favor. Radha was not accustomed to life here and wanted to leave quickly, but the grandfather, seeing that Hera had feelings for Radha, lied about not delivering goods to Two Hills soon, thus no chance to blend into civilized society. He suggested Radha stay for 2 more weeks. However, others besides Hera coveted Radha's beauty. The thug leader secretly kept her whereabouts from the mayor, wanting to keep Radha for himself. Meanwhile, Hera found Yuli and asked him to talk to Radha, hoping Radha would choose to stay in the barbaric world willingly. Yuli immediately agreed to speak to her, but instead of persuading her, he found himself homesick for the days of coffee and massages where everything was provided without effort. He proposed to Radha that they escape back to Two Hills that night. Unexpectedly, Hera came and said that the lucky sidekick had called everyone to assemble in the yard, announcing the establishment of a constitution for the barbaric region with tempting terms to get everyone's agreement. But hidden within the constitution was a clause transferring power back to the thug leader, unbeknownst to the populace, who were pressing their thumbprints in agreement to the legislation. In the evening, Yuli and Radha got together to discuss their escape plan. Yuli was reluctant to part with his cup and alcohol, knowing it would be hard to come by once they left the barbaric region. Yuli strongly recommended the strong liquor to Radha, and they both drank until they were dizzy. When he tried to make a move on Radha, she refused his smelly butt. Yuli, not fond of resistance, attempted to force her. When Hera arrived, he found Yuli rolling on the bed, clutching his groin. He went downstairs to look for Radha, who was sitting dejectedly by a campfire, lamenting that even Yuli had no respect for her sexy body. Hera hastened to distance himself from Yuli, offering his coat to Radha with the utmost care. Moreover, he brought her roast chicken, which she found deliciously new. She was curious about things she had never experienced before, especially love, which was strictly forbidden in Two Hills. Upon hearing this, Hera suggested they could start with a tongueless kiss. Radha opened her clothes, indicating her willingness, but just as Hera was about to approach, they were interrupted by Radha's mother, who seemed to have reached an agreement that would allow her daughter to return safely to Two Hills, including Hera. Hera and Radha followed her mother back to Two Hills. As soon as their car stopped at the entrance, Hera was hit by a tranquilizer dart. It turned out that Radha's mother had made a deal with the mayor. If she brought Hera back to face punishment, Radha's punishment would be waived. When Hera awoke, he found himself tied up in front of everyone. The committee had decided to execute him. However, Two Hills had very humane conditions even in prison, which was akin to a hotel and even provided a gourmet breakfast. The smart housekeeper advised him to enjoy his last hour of life to the fullest. Hera opened his room door to find only a very low fence in the courtyard. Radha cycled by, and as she excitedly ran towards him, the fence suddenly rose, and the police shot him again. No one could escape from Two Hills jail. After regaining consciousness, Hera was tied to a chair and given the first injection of poison. The judge declared that the second injection would follow in 2 hours. Upon hearing this, Radha ran up to the stage and kissed Hera in front of everyone, a sight that made the onlookers sick to their stomachs. But at that moment, Radha was actually lying at home. It seems that everything that had just happened is a dream. Radha's best friend came over and turned on the television, which was broadcasting the footage of Hera and Radha kissing. It turned out that everything Hera had imagined was not real. Two Hills had abolished the death penalty. They were only subjecting Hera to a form of virtual punishment in a dream state, with his visions broadcasted in real time. Radha sought out the Seed Keepers, pleading with them to help save Hera. They had always been taken care of by Hera and promised they would secure his freedom. The Seed Keepers publicly protested, declaring that if Hera was not released, they would withhold their seed donations. Hera, unaware that he was trapped in a virtual world, kept kissing Radha passionately until the next moment when she pushed him away to start playing a commercial. The crowd around them applauded, leaving Hera confused, not understanding what was happening. As the countdown approached its end, Hera was strapped to the execution chair for the second injection. To Hera, ignorant of the truth, the fear of death felt incredibly real, and he was prepared to ascend to heaven. Instead, he found himself in a dark space where a smart wheel would decide his next life. As the wheel stopped spinning, the arrow pointed to a plastic bag icon. The next second, Hera became a trash bag, drifting lonely through the breezy streets of Two Hills. Everyone felt this was too inhumane and began to protest with raised fists. Even Radha's mother stood with her. The mayor had to step in to speak, and just as she was about to persuade them, Hera's imagination went wild again. On the television, the scene shifted to the sea, where Hera and Radha were reenacting the iconic moment from Titanic. He sacrificed his chance at survival for the love of his woman, moving everyone to the verge of tears. Just as the atmosphere was perfectly set, Radha suddenly raised the sponsorship and started playing an advertisement. The audience was stunned into silence, but still moved by Hera's imaginative drama. The judge also pleaded on his behalf, and Radha exaggeratedly promised that Hera would obey the law from then on. She guaranteed it on her civilized status, and Radha's mother was also willing to take responsibility. The matter was finally resolved amicably. Radha took Hera to the guest house and asked him to stay there. Hera wanted to kiss Radha using his juicy tongue, but was unceremoniously pushed away. Radha explained that everything from the previous day was a dream, and they should maintain social distancing. In the barbaric district on the other side, Yuli's temperament changed drastically after Radha rejected him. He became even more agitated than the thug leader himself, swearing to win back Radha. Yuli was sitting in the thug leader's office, deep in thought, when he accidentally found a locked drawer. Without hesitation, he smashed the lock and discovered a ring inside. Suddenly, a crisis hit the barbaric area. They lost power. Yuli had to step in for the thug leader to negotiate for electricity. Using the ring he found in the drawer, he tried to contact the mayor to restore a secret deal to exchange alcohol for power. The mayor, however, promptly hung up because she couldn't risk being implicated in any wrongdoing with the new election round about to start. Meanwhile, Radha's mother, trying to garner votes, delivered the latest style of hats to the seed keepers. Turning to Hera, he was awakened by the housekeeper. He picked up the toothbrush prepared by the housekeeper, which could complete the cleaning in 3 seconds. The smart housekeeper could also print any food. When Radha and her mother arrived, he was gorging on a chocolate shoe, which didn't look very smart. As his guarantor, Radha had to ensure that Hera didn't cause any trouble. She kindly reminded him that everyone's ring had 300 basic points, and if it dropped to 0, they would be kicked out of Two Hills. Hera promised to be careful, but immediately lost 10 points for wasting food and swearing. Radha took him on a tour around the town, with Hera continuously losing points along the way. Radha's friend happened to pass by and invited Hera to play ball with them. The team didn't need more players, so Hera could only watch from the sidelines. He noticed that the volleyball game didn't keep score. There was no winning or losing, which he found pointless. At Hera's urging, everyone decided to keep score to determine the winner. Sure enough, once the competition involved winning and losing, everyone's competitive spirit was ignited. During the game, Hera kept cheering for the girl, which sparked Radha's jealousy. The tension on the volleyball court grew more intense, and Radha became unusually competitive, with her friend even deliberately stepping on an opposing player's hand. Radha was furious and aimed at her nose, striking hard enough to make her nose bleed like a running nose. A fight was about to break out, with the friend cursing and lunging at Radha, turning the volleyball court into a boxing ring. The mayor arrived at the scene immediately, but since no one admitted to fighting, she could only leave it be for the time being. After that, the friend apologized to Radha, and they made up. Hera wanted to join in but was pushed away by Radha, who thought he had a bad influence and wanted to keep her distance from him. The scene shifts to the barbaric district, where Yuli was worried about the power supply. Suddenly, a little bee flew by, giving him an idea. He ran to the beehive, explaining to everyone that the bees of Two Hills had gone extinct. If they could obtain the precious honey, they would surely be able to trade it for electricity. Someone handed him a stick, and Yuli jumped up to knock down the beehive, hugging it happily while others ran away. Yuli was stung all over his face. Later, he contacted the mayor, and they met inside a van. The mayor's eyes lit up when she saw the honey, and she enjoyed a taste. But Yuli's condition wasn't for power. He wanted the mayor to take him back to Two Hills. On the other side, to improve Hera's score, Radha and her mother arranged for him a job, asking him to incubate partridge eggs. Despite his reluctance to play the role of a chicken mom, he had no choice but to sit obediently on a specially designed chair and hatch the eggs, even having to patiently pose for photos with the residents. This helped Hera and Radha's mother regain some public favor. However, everyone was suddenly startled by a message alleging that Yuli and the mayor had colluded, claiming that Yuli had been attacked by Hera and was now suffering and bullied in the barbaric district. As Hera's guarantor, Radha's mother's approval rating instantly plummeted to 3%. Yuli, capitalizing on everyone's sympathy, made his way back to Two Hills. The mayor even arranged for Radha to give him an oil massage. Once Radha left, Hera immediately confronted Yuli, who shamelessly knew that no one would believe Hera. In a fit of rage, Hera threw an apple against the wall, not realizing that apples were considered sacred in Two Hills. His action was a serious transgression. The mayor made Hera's behavior public, broadcasting it on television and deducting 100 points from him. Furthermore, she sought every excuse to dock his social points, even penalizing him for helping an elderly lady with a heavy load, calling it age and gender discrimination. The public, watching the live broadcast, was outraged and began casting their votes for Radha's mother as a form of protest against the mayor's actions. The secretary, noticing the updated data, quietly alerted the mayor, but she was determined to remove all of Hera's points. She called out Yuli and accused Hera of malicious assault. If Hera's points were depleted, Radha's family would also be zeroed out. This left Hera with no points left, but in a crisis moment, he suddenly gained 1 point. It turned out that Radha's friend, having seen him incubating the eggs, had donated a point to him earlier, which had just come through. Seeing this, others began to follow suit, donating points to Hera. Just then, Hera felt a pain in his smelly butt and realized he had actually hatched a chick. Radha's mother, who had proposed the partridge egg plan, ended up with a 45% approval rating. Afterward, Radha found Hera and told him to take things seriously, as this was not a game. Any slip-up could result in her and her mother being expelled from Two Hills. Hera was noticeably disheartened by her words and decided to leave. He deliberately approached the gatekeeper, and taking advantage of his distraction, he stole the remote control. He managed to open the protective shield and ran out, only to be chased by Tesla drones. In his frantic attempt to dodge the tranquilizer gun, he collided with a passing bread van, spilling the illicitly transported alcohol inside. The mayor, fearing the exposure of the incident, decided to divert everyone's attention. She contacted the thug leader, instructing him to orchestrate an attack on Two Hills. Meanwhile, the injured Hera was rushed to the operating room, with Radha and her mother anxiously waiting outside. Fortunately, he was not in serious danger, a testament to the advanced medical development in Two Hills. Afterwards, the three of them set out to attend the annual lottery gala, where those who haven't accumulated enough societal points can have a chance to win a seed-keeper's seed. Radha, who has no interest in having children, wanders around with Hera amidst fertility expos aimed at encouraging participation in the draw and becoming mothers sooner. Radha's friend, whose gender consciousness is gradually awakening, wants to try natural conception and seeks Hera's help after much indecision. Hera's first reaction is to ask for Radha's opinion. Though reluctant and for the sake of face, she says she won't interfere with Hera's decision. Hera agrees for the time being, and later, to everyone's surprise, Radha wins the lottery. The mother runs over to congratulate her daughter, but Radha can't be happy. The girl pulls Hera away, saying that she wants to get pregnant on the same day as her good friend Radha. They both return to the bedroom, but Hera, who loves Radha, breaks away and returns to the hall. When Radha sees him, she refuses the seed she won and heads straight for Hera. Unexpectedly, the thug leader arrives and embraces Hera intentionally, making everyone think Hera is a traitor. A barbarian rushes out to grab Radha's heavy body, and the hall descends into chaos, with barbarians causing trouble everywhere. The thug leader even takes Radha's mother away, following the mayor's instructions to go for his reward, only to find the box empty. The thug leader secretly contacts the mayor, realizing he's been used. The mayor only wants to solve Radha's mother and get all the votes for herself. The police arrive immediately and surround the thug leader and his people. A barbarian throws a bottle of expired soda which explodes in the sky, and in the confusion, everyone escapes. Hera finds Radha and pulls her to hide at home while her mother is still in the thug leader's hands, taken to the seed storage room. The mayor controls the situation, guides everyone on TV to suspect, and announces Hera's points reset. Radha and her mother are also to be expelled. Radha and Hera are locked in the house with no way out. On the other side, Radha's mother, unwilling to sit by, proposes a collaboration with the thug leader. They walk out with the storage room seeds, the thug leader pretending to hold Radha's mother hostage, using the seeds to threaten the police. These are the fruits of 2 years of the seed keeper's labor, so the police don't dare act rashly. The mayor, for the sake of votes, can't risk taking the seeds and can only watch them leave. Meanwhile, Radha and Hera intentionally get intimate, continuous rule-breaking behavior that disrupts the smart housekeeper system, and they escape the room amidst the chaos. They drive to the city's edge, finding the thug leader. Radha calls her mother to the car, but the thug leader plays dirty, pulling Radha from the driver's seat and driving away with Radha and her mother. Radha can't let Hera be alone, struggles in the car, causing the pickup to plunge into a ditch. The mayor is pleased upon receiving the news and approaches her new business partner, Yuli, ready to abandon the thug leader, her old pawn. Meanwhile, Hera goes to find the hardhead seed keeper, who explains that the riot is the mayor's doing and convinces him to help. They set off on bicycles, breaking through barriers at high speed. When they return to the barbarian land, they find Radha and her mother are not there. The hardhead seed keeper calls a companion, only to learn that they have been captured by the mayor and along with the captured barbarians are to be sent to the Pacific to pick up trash. Hera is at a loss but accidentally sees his grandfather's computer screen, which reveals Radha's grandmother as his classmate. The old man, learning his first love is still alive, quickly takes out a hidden military computer to find Radha's location. They follow the computer's tracking, but unexpectedly run into the screen, and then a group of bikers appear suddenly, and the secretary opens the door for them to pass through. The group watches from the shadows, discovering an apple orchard behind the barrier, where the mayor has been profiting from the sale of these fruits, with the bikers transporting drunks as labor. They must find a way into the barrier, whose protective layer is far superior to that of the two hills. Hera pretends to be drunk on the bikers' route and is captured by them. Instead of being sent to the orchard, Hera is taken to the biker boss, who selects the uses for the drunks. Seeing Hera young and strong, the boss dresses him in pet clothes and sets off in a prepared vehicle. They quickly reach the destination, greeted by the mayor. It turns out the boss's transported pets are for her pleasure. Because Hera wears a special mask, Radha, serving a sentence in the garden, does not recognize him. Radha and her companions never actually went to the Pacific. Instead, they were used as personal slaves by the mayor. She dismissed the others to speak privately with the boss. Hera was tied up outside, where he saw Radha and excitedly signaled for her to come over. Hera hid the hardhead seed keeper's ring in his mouth, instructing Radha to find an opportunity to secretly photograph incriminating evidence against the mayor to expose her in Two Hills. As night fell, the mayor's decadent party began. Radha sneaked in to take photos, but was unexpectedly recognized by Yuli due to Hera's distinctive tattoo. Yuli ripped off his mask, and the mayor pushed Hera away in reaction. Hera collided with the table, revealing Radha, who was hiding underneath. The biker gang, following orders, captured Radha, and the secretary snatched Radha's ring, finding the secret photos inside, which had already been sent to someone in Two Hills. To prevent the scandal from surfacing, the mayor planned to burn down the secret orchard, along with the slaves inside. The recipient of the photos was Radha's close friend, who was publicly revealing the photos. The mayor hurried over, claiming the images were maliciously edited. Due to the severity of the allegations, the superior came to inspect. She decided to stay in Two Hills for further investigation. The mayor nervously accepted the superior's interrogation, who demanded to inspect all accounts. The mayor distracted the superior and quickly destroyed the contraband in her office. The superior found no evidence for the time being, but planned to start an extensive search the next day. Meanwhile, Radha was still serving her sentence in the orchard, with Yuli occasionally offering his attentions. However, Radha remained cold. The grandmother saw this as an opportunity and advised Radha to ingratiate herself with him to find a chance to escape. Following her grandmother's instructions, Radha flirtatiously leaned against a tree trunk, and Yuli took the bait, inviting Radha into his tent probably for a hot hormone yoga session. However, he wasn't in the mood for romance and explained that the mayor planned to burn the orchard and that their immediate priority was to leave. He knew a secret path, but as he was about to disclose crucial information, Radha knocked Yuli unconscious. Not only was the vital clue lost, but Radha and Hera were also captured by the biker gang. At this critical moment, a garbage truck arrived. The thug leader emerged from a trash can. It turned out he had escaped using the garbage truck earlier, but had returned to save the others because he had fallen in love with Radha's mother. He shot one of the bikers in the leg and rallied the slaves to capture all the enemies. Meanwhile, after much deliberation, the mayor pressed the button to blow up the orchard, supposedly killing all the enemies. She was about to succeed in her final ceremony of ascension when, unexpectedly, the secretary pulled out a sponsored advertisement, implying that everything happening at the moment was fake. The mayor, in a state of collapse, shouted out in distress. It turned out that following the scandal involving the ugly photos, she had been convicted and was undergoing a form of suspended animation imprisonment. The explosion never happened. Hera and Radha were safe. It was all just a figment of the mayor's imagination. After the incident, Radha's mother succeeded in becoming the new mayor of Two Hills, but her education from childhood hadn't changed her perspective. She announced her intention to eliminate all the barbarians. In this drama, Two Hills and the Barbarian Zone each represent extreme matriarchal and patriarchal societies. In Two Hills, women lack a concept of gender. They even give way to male beetles on the path. The highest honor is asexual reproduction. They live in a place of cutting-edge technology, yet their thoughts are tightly shackled. Their diet, speech, and word usage are all controlled. To the contrary, the Barbarian Zone also reveals the downsides of patriarchy, the thug leader's extreme hegemony, his first rights to all resources, and resolving issues through slapping contests, treating women as objects, even forbidding them from bathing at will. The style of conduct is no different from that of savages. Whether it's patriarchy or matriarchy, when taken to extreme ends, both lose their meaning. With that, the drama comes to an end. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.